We live in a culture that idolizes revolution. When you turn on the TV, it feels like every other movie is about the brave rebellion of freedom fighters standing up against the oppressive tyrannical government. Every other book is about a ragtag band of revolutionaries. From Star Wars to Hunger Games to Les Miserables, we are constantly bombarded with this message that rebellion is good. Revolution is good. Conservatives and leftists alike have been totally brainwashed by this message. On the left, you have Antifa and BLM burning down homes and killing policemen and justifying it as revolution, as sticking it to the man, as speaking truth to power. Meanwhile, conservatives are always fantasizing about the Second Civil War, about we the people, the real patriots, rising up and overthrow the federal government. That's why we have the Second Amendment, isn't it? But in real life, revolutions never work out that nicely. In real life, when the masses revolt, things get ugly very fast. When all those angry dads flood the streets with their AK-47s and all those teenagers start throwing Molotov cocktails, a lot of innocent people will get hurt. We can fantasize about you and me and our based friends taking over the government and killing all the pedophiles, but once order breaks down and mobs are rioting and looting and burning down homes, we won't be able to control them. There's no better example of revolutions turned nasty than the 10-year satanic bloodbath known as the French Revolution. This was basically if Reddit atheists took over a country. We all know about the mass murder of innocent people and the worship of reason in the form of a prostitute, but I didn't realize just how evil it was until I started reading up on it for this video. At one point, they executed 16 nuns, simply because the nuns refused to recant their faith. But to me, the most disturbing story is that of the Marquis de Sade. Sade was a French aristocrat and the namesake of the word sadism. Sade's first sex scandal came when he hired a prostitute named Jeanne Testard. He locked her in a bedroom and asked her if she believed in God. She said, "I do." And he started screaming at her, "There is no God!" shouting disgusting things about Jesus and Mary. He did some other horrendous things that I can't say on YouTube and forced Jeanne to trample on a crucifix while shouting blasphemy. But de Sade wasn't finished. A few years later, he lured a beggar widow into his home, forced her to undress, tied her to a bed, and whipped her with a cat of nine tails. He then poured hot wax over her wounds and threatened to kill her if she didn't stop screaming. At another time, he hired 5 15-year-old girls as servants for his mansion and forced them into a series of orgies. 3 of the girls had to be sent to a convent until their wounds healed, and one of them died a few months later. For all these horrible crimes against God, the Marquis de Sade was arrested by order of the king. But unfortunately, he did not spend the rest of his life rotting in prison because the French Revolution happened. And the revolutionaries decided to free him. That's right, they let the pedophile rapist out of prison. Not only that, but they let him join the revolutionary government. Sade actually became a leader in his district and was appointed the Commissioner of Health and Charitable Institutions. I wish this was a joke. Sade was so prominent that he was chosen to give the funeral oration for Marat and Le Pelletier, 2 of the revolution's most iconic martyrs. It's fitting, really. The French Revolution was a revolt against God, nature, and common decency. But modern leftists still glorify the Jacobins. We need to bring back the guillotine. Jeff Bezos and Donald Trump will wet their rich little pants when they see the guillotine. Just know that when they talk about beheading billionaires, they are imagining you. Why do you think they'll stop with billionaires? Why not millionaires? Why not anyone who makes over 6 figures? Why not anyone who owns a business? Make no mistake, they hate anyone more successful than themselves. They hate anyone who has any status they don't. They hate anything classy, anything white, and when they get the chance, they will kill your children and shoot your dog. If you don't believe me, that is literally what happened during the Russian Revolution. The Bolsheviks murdered the entire royal family, not just the Tsar, but his wife and his 5 children. The children were stabbed to death with bayonets. The family dogs started howling in distress, so the Bolsheviks killed them too. The only survivor was Prince Alexei's beloved spaniel Joy, who was brought to England and lived out his days in Windsor. Cute dog. If you're American, you probably grew up hearing that the communist revolutions and the French Revolution were bad and evil, but the American Revolution was good. Now, I certainly agree that the American Revolution had better goals, and it was led by good Christian men instead of psychotic atheists. But if you look carefully, even our revolution had the same problems. I remember reading about people being tarred and feathered in the American Revolution, but I never realized just how brutal it was. Imagine you're a colonial tax collector just doing your job when one day a violent mob surrounds your house. They start breaking windows, threatening your wife, trampling your garden, and they drag you out into the street. They strip you naked and pour scalding hot tar all over you. You're screaming for help, but the mob starts jeering and covers you in chicken feathers. Then they parade you through the streets on a rail. On at least one occasion, the mob went even farther and actually set their victim on fire. These were not just isolated incidents, this happened dozens of times. The most horrific case was that of John Malcolm. The mob dragged him from his home, tarred and feathered him, and ordered him to curse the king. He refused, so they kept whipping him and threatened to cut off his ears. He finally gave in and cursed the king, after which the mob forced him to drink tea until he vomited. He survived, but he carried the scars of that night for the rest of his life. Oh, boo-hoo, those tax collectors had it coming. These were innocent people with lives and families. Yes, they worked for the British. Does that really mean they deserve to be tortured by a violent mob? And here's a red pill you might not be ready for. Many of the founding fathers initially supported the French Revolution. The Federalists were much more skeptical, but the Republicans were swept away by revolutionary enthusiasm. Thomas Jefferson especially was a total Francophile. As the French Revolution began, he wrote, "They are enlightened, their lights are spreading, and they will not retrograde." Together with Lafayette, Jefferson actually wrote the Revolution's Declaration of Rights. Even as the violence escalated, he defended the mob and believed that the National Assembly was acting with, quote, firmness and wisdom, and that he had, quote, the highest confidence in their ability to govern. We like to think of revolutions as this very grassroots phenomenon where the people just get fed up and decide to do something about it. But that's really just YA dystopia, Hunger Games brain rot. It never actually happens that way. In real life, revolutions are almost always orchestrated from the top down by the financial elites. The mainstream narrative is that the French Revolution was when the poor rose up against the rich. But in reality, it was more of a civil war between two factions of the rich. You see, French society consisted of three classes: the nobility, the church, and the bourgeoisie. While the nobility were French aristocrats, old money, the bourgeoisie were wealthy merchants and lawyers, a new money class birthed by the early stages of capitalism. The Estates General was a government council in which all three classes, clergy, nobles, and merchants, had equal say. But the merchants wanted to overthrow the other estates, so they stirred up mobs into a frenzy, advocated for radical change, and eventually took over the Estates General and declared that they alone would be making the laws. Then they confiscated all the wealth of the nobles and the church. Revolutions are always one elite versus another. Our modern world was built by these revolutions, and modern society constantly glamorizes them. Don't fall for it. The left glamorizes revolution because they hate the past, they hate tradition, and they hate hierarchy. They want to throw out the old and start over. They've done it before. The same people who stormed the Bastille in France and murdered the royal family in Russia are in the streets today burning down businesses. And if they get the chance, they will kill your family and shoot your dog. Don't let them. Thanks for your time. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. God bless America. These are exciting times. The channel is growing. People are waking up. The masses are becoming Arthur Greenwood-pilled. But we still have a long way to go. My last channel was demonetized, and they might do the exact same thing to this one. So, if you like what I do and you want to help me out, if you want to help my channel grow, there are 4 things you can do. 1. Leave a comment. Just say anything, literally anything, and that will be a huge help for the algorithm. 2. Send the video to a friend. I know you have some normie friend who needs to hear this. 4, most importantly, consider joining my Patreon. You'll get access to the Arthur Greenwood archive where you can watch my really controversial videos that I can't put on YouTube, including my really old videos from when I was like a democratic Voshite socialist. There's even the hour-long debate I had about anarcho-capitalism. You'll also get to join our members-only Discord server where you can talk with me and the boys about life and politics and history. It's a great time. We have weekly phone calls, and I have genuinely become really good friends with some of the guys in the server. Because we have to stick together, you know? It's rough out there. We need networks of highly disciplined, highly intelligent men. If you want to join my network, all it costs is $1 a month. That adds up to $12 a year, which is nothing. That's less than an hour of work. And in exchange, you get to be my friend forever.